Well, hello, football fans, and welcome to this 7-on-7 show with Jim Poynter. I'm Bill Frawley, the voice of the Vikings for football broadcast and JV PA announcing. Jim, how are you doing today?
Bill, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
And I'm doing good. As a lot of people that watch some of these things know, I travel a lot, and I'm actually off the road in Arlington this week. So I'm kind of glad to be here watching the weather because we do have a varsity baseball game scheduled for tonight that we're hoping to broadcast over the internet, but the weather's supposed to turn bad, and so I'm keeping an eye on that. So
Yeah,
we're
there's
doing well overall.
severe weather forecast, so you're right.
Exactly. So, well, let's jump into some 7-on-7 talk, Jim. Hey, with COVID restrictions, pretty much, if not completely in the past, seems like things are gearing up for and I'll use some air quotes, back to normal 7-on-7 season this summer. Hey, when do things kick off, and what's the overall process for the season?
Well, you're absolutely right. It really has done a 180. We are practicing already. We're 3 weeks in on Saturdays, practicing, getting ready for our first state qualifying tournament the weekend after Easter. So we're just a week and some change away from actually playing. So, but to your point, instead of wearing mask, trying to keep some kind of social distancing, which is almost impossible in any team sport, that's really gone by the wayside. And so we're back to pre-2020 drills and practice format, and it's nice. It's nice to be back to where you and the kids can react without thinking about what else is going on.
I can imagine. So those distractions only seem to probably get in the way. I know they do in other aspects of life. So I can only imagine, like you say, when you're right there, man on man, person on person, and having to help out with stuff too, that's got to be right. Well, Jim, one of the things I know people are interested in, and I'd kind of like to be reminded, what are the limitations regarding the Lamar High School coaches with the 7-on-7 program?
Well, this is program now is a statewide association with a board of directors. It is not a UIL sport. And so one of the things I think that although this state 7-on-7 association board is populated by what we'll call real coaches at various high schools around the state. And one of the things I think they really did right was they prohibited school district employees, meaning, again, real coaches, from being involved with 7-on-7 on a day in, day out basis. And the reason simply is those guys need a break. This is a sport that's fundamentally really gets running in May and culminates in a state tournament late June, early July. And so those guys and gals around the state who coach their sports need a break. Now, having said that, they did put a little asterisk with that, and some representative from the high school, and so it's typically one of the football coaches, does have to attend a state qualifying tournament or the state tournament, but they have to park themselves in the end zone, Bill. They cannot coach. They are really there in case of injury, or if something really did go askew, that there is an actual representative of the high school from each high school there at the tournament. But mostly, Coach Skinner in the summertime, he's going to come out, he's going to bring his wife, he's going to bring those cute little kids of his, and they're going to sit in the end zone and just have a ball watching us play. And he doesn't have to worry about schemes and that kind of stuff. He's going to leave it to the volunteers.
Gets to kind of like see what his future talent for the fall season looks like, I guess.
Well, no, that's right. That's exactly
internal
right.
Scouting, if you will, maybe.
That's right.
Okay, good. Well, speaking of the state qualifying tournaments and the state tournament, Lamar has an incredible history of making it to the state tournament in what I refer to as the Holy Land, College Station.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that record, and to what do you attribute that ongoing success?
Well, it is something we're proud of. There's no question about it. The state tournament started in 1998, and of course, it was smaller then. There weren't as many schools participating, but it had all the usual suspects. Even back then, the South Lakes, some of the real good teams from the Austin area and the Houston area, and so every year except 2020, because of COVID, there has been a team that has worked its way through College Station and been crowned king of 7-on-7 at the statewide level. And in order to get there, in order to participate in that tournament, you have to finish first or second in a local qualifying tournament. And so, for instance, here in North Texas, Bill, there's 7 state qualifying tournaments. First one being, as I said, the weekend after Easter. And we participate, Lamar, in all 7 of them, which is a little unusual because there's a cost associated with them. And so your question was, what do we attribute that success to? Well, one of the things is we give the kids as much 7-on-7 in a tournament venue as they can possibly get. There's only mathematically 7 weekends, and we go to all of them. Even if we qualify in, say, the 3rd weekend, we'll take a group, maybe with some younger players, but we'll take a group and we'll keep playing against guys in other colored jerseys as much as we can. And so that helps us not only get qualified, but then be used to that level of competition rather than, chasing each other around all summer in, Lamar versus Lamar practices. We spend a lot of those state qualifying tournaments getting ready for College Station. The other thing is continuity of coaching, Bill. I've been blessed. I have 3 coaches. 2 of them played for me in 7-on-7, played for Lamar High School under Eddie Peach, and then have been coming back as volunteers almost since they got out of high school. One of them is Julian Stewart, and Julian is in his 12th year as my defensive coordinator, and he's 30 years old. So you do the math. He got his diploma and he showed up for volunteer work on 7-on-7. The other one, Spencer Porter, is 7 years in. And then joining us is, and of course, you'll know him, J.R. Walker, who does so many things for Lamar, is in his 2nd year with us. But J.R. has coached different teams around North Arlington for years and years and years, just not with our varsity 7-on-7. And then I've got an all-world team volunteer coordinator, and Angie Morris. Of course, her husband, Jeff, is the offensive line coach for Lamar. And I think part of her ability to let go of her oldest son, Jaden, to go to Texas Tech next year was to get herself super involved in more Lamar activities so she wouldn't feel that empty nester as much. So I'm kidding, but only a little. And
Sure.
That continuity of coaches and that level of commitment from the volunteers in our program is the second element. And then I think the third element, quite honestly, is that we have such incredible support. I've coached now under Coach Peach, Coach Fuller, Coach DeLay, and now almost full circle, one of my players is now my boss in Billy Skinner. And they, to a man, each one of those head football coaches, some schools don't even play 7-on-7. Others, the coaches kind of put up with it, but they're not really engaged in it. Man, that's not the case at Lamar. They like what we're doing. So you add those 3 or 4 elements together, and that gives us the platform. I'm going to mention one more, and that's financial contributions, donations. We have a company here in town that I know but I don't know if our audience does, called First Rate Incorporated. And First Rate was founded by Dave and Trina Stone. And the Stone sons and daughter attended Lamar. And one of them played 7-on-7 for me, and they had a great experience. And so over the years, that company, and they give to a lot of good, worthy Arlington area groups, but they have supported us literally 15 years. And so that kind of financial support, that's why we can go to 7 state qualifying tournaments at $300 a pop, because we have some resources to help defer. Now, we don't let the kids play for free. They've got skin in the game, but we've been able to cap that at a price that makes it that they pay less for varsity 7-on-7 participation than they will for middle school 7-on-7 because of the people who donate resources to us. So those are the reasons. And we are now we're 23 out of 23 years we've qualified for the state tournament. I know that sounds ridiculous, but 2 things, a subset of both of those that I'm so proud of, all 23 of those, Bill, the qualification occurred with us as a visitor to somebody else's tournament. We've not hosted
Nice.
one. So all of them have been on the road. And of those 23, 18 times we've advanced to the winners bracket. So that means we either won our pool on Friday or finished second. And so
Wow.
we're not just showing up and putting in the time, but
Right.
we're advancing. So we're pretty proud of that. So we don't hide this. One of the first things we talk about the first practice is you don't want to be the group of kids who messes this up.
That's right. No pressure, but
so no, that's right. No pressure, but this started before you were born. And so we talked to him about, look, we've got a good process. If you'll put in the work and the time, the odds are we can get there. But there's no magic wand here. There's no shortcut to getting there. Each year is different. And so that's where we start from.
Well, Jim, trivia question here, and that's just amazing. 23 out of 23 possible times Lamar 7-on-7 team has made it to the state tournament. How many other teams in the state have done that?
Well, the answer is 0, and I'm going to give you the top 5. Cy Fair, Houston suburb, has made it 21.
Okay.
Katy, another great football program in the Houston area, 20. The Woodlands and Abilene are tied next at 20 each. So we got some people hot behind our tail, but nobody who's right behind us. We've got a couple of years of separation, but you look at those programs and you realize that, that's the cream of the crop. South Lake and Austin Westlake and Lake Travis, they're all close to that, but they're at 17, 18, 19. So it's not that they're not there. They're just at some point maybe stubbed their toe once or twice.
Sure. Well, thank you for giving us some in-depth information about what all goes on and the fact that practices have already started and that first state qualifying tournament is just kind of literally around the corner. Jim, I think you may have already answered this, but something on my mind, and if you want to add something to it, let me know. Some people not familiar with the 7-on-7 program may see it as glorified flag football. How does it impact the Lamar Viking football program, though?
Well, first of all, I'd say those people are accurate. I mean, it's touch football, flag football. It's not tackle football. But the way I'll tell you how it does, and every year it gets more important. And here's the reason. When I started doing this, when Coach Peach was here, we ran a 2 running back set with a flanker and maybe 2 receivers. Okay. And you remember full well, Coach Peach's success was predicated on running the ball well and then play action passing once the run was established. Well, 7-on-7, we have 5 receivers. Okay. So there was not much applicability back in the day between an Eddie Peach offense and 7-on-7.
No 4 yards in a cloud of dust.
No, that's right. There's no run. There's no running it. There's no lineman up front protecting you. Fast forward to today, and you look. I mean, you of all people know this. It's a much more open brand of football all over the state. 3 minimum of 3 up to 5 receivers in a given play, and a balance in a lot of programs of about 50-50 between pass and run.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happened is football has gravitated to 7-on-7, not so much the other way around. So and what I mean by that is today we run, especially when we have an experienced quarterback like we did last year in Jaden Morris, we'll run 2/3-ish Lamar football plays, modified slightly, but we're using their terminology and we're using their pass sets and schemes, and maybe a quarter to a third of Jim Poynter 7-on-7 drew him up in the dirt years ago kind of plays. So whereas, as I said, back at Eddie Peach, that might have been 0-100. There wasn't that. Sure. So yes, it's touch football, but anytime you give any athlete 10,000 extra reps, whether it's throwing it, catching it, backpedaling, and that's probably pretty accurate over the course of the summer, they're going to be a better football player come August than they would if they had, hung out at the Dairy Queen. I think the proof of that pudding is we have at least 2, that's not right. We have 4 that I can think of, guys that are in the NFL that played 7-on-7 for us. Now they've obviously played Lamar football too, But if you ask them, we ask them to come back and talk to our teams. And to a man, they are like, what you're doing in 7-on-7 will make you quicker. It will make you understand the green grass theory, because today's game is based on getting open. However you can do it, get open. And it has a lot of, I think, good carryover.
Definitely.
It's probably more than you wanted, but that's what you got.
No, I think you hit it right on the head, actually, because again, folks who aren't as familiar with it, going to watch this show, they're going to have a better appreciation for it. And come the fall, they'll have a little bit of insight as to why some of those receivers are getting open, why they understand the play system and all that kind of thing, why the quarterback going through extra reps or quarterbacks plural, whatever it is. So no, that was perfect. Thank you. Hey, next I want to ask, are there ways that the fans can support the program?
There are, and social media is probably the first and most obvious, and that's just to check in and see how we're doing. We have a website, www.Lamar Vikings, plural, and then a 7-numeral.com. And then our Twitter account is at Lamar 7-on-7. And so we're pretty good about keeping both of those updated for what's happening that particular week. I write a coach's kind of commentary after each state qualifying tournament to kind of give people a sense of how we're progressing. For instance, this year, Bill, we have two young quarterbacks. We have neither one has any varsity football experience. Having said that, though, they're both, after being with them for several practices, they're both talented, they're coachable, and they really want it, and they're making each other better. But it's even on these years where especially we don't have a returning veteran quarterback like a Jaden Morris, 7-on-7 really has extra value in those reps we talked about, and reading defenses, and also frankly developing their leadership role on the football team. If you're this is a 2B sophomore and a 2B junior quarterbacks, they've got to earn the respect and the attention of these older receivers and defensive backs. And so 7-on-7 helps that bonding process before they report back in August.
That's really good to know also, definitely. And some of these tournaments are going to be in the Metroplex where fans can get to them easily, as well as some further off.
They basically are just literally in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The first one happens to be in Melissa, which is one of the farthest we go. That's north of McKinney, but we have one at Arlington High. We have a couple at LD Bell. So within literally 10 or 15 minutes, they could catch half our season. And the schedule is up on the website, so they can pick one that works for them and come out and see us. And then obviously, if anyone is interested in making a donation for specific things that we don't have identified each year, we have a team meal after they run out in that heat down at Texas A&M all afternoon on a Friday. We take them to Golden Corral for dinner. So it's about an entourage of about 35 people, coaches, players. And I try to get that covered by some well-intended donation. So if that touches anybody's heart, they like to see teenagers with a good meal in their tummy, just reach out to us. And you can do it through either one of those social media sites.
Excellent. Well, let's encourage fans to get out there and support. Hey, a road trip on a Saturday. Are these on Saturdays typically?
They are. We have 5 of the 7 on Saturdays. The others are on Fridays. So
a Saturday or Friday drive to Melissa is not too bad. Hey, I grew up in Odessa in West Texas, where you travel hundreds of miles for a game. So let's have some fans come out and support. Well, Jim, anything else you'd like to add before we finish off for today?
Well, since you mentioned Odessa, I'll just tell you, one of the fun things for the kids is they don't get to play people from all over the state in regular football unless they make the trek all the way to 16 games. And so we've played Odessa Permian, we've played Midland, we've played all the El Paso schools, all the way down to Brownsville. We've played these. So it's fun to really see what's and to measure yourself, frankly, as a student athlete against guys from all over the state, and realize they all have 2 arms and 2 legs, just like you do. They're not Superman, and but that's part of the evolution.
Well, hopefully there will be a Permian game on the schedule this summer or this season, I'll get to see my alma mater. Just side note, a few years ago, Lamar in the playoffs got to play Permian in Abilene at then the new Abilene Christian University Stadium. And I had the pleasure and privilege to broadcast that. I had my two sons there with me. And that was one of my dreams, was to be able to broadcast Lamar versus Permian. And Lamar won. They out mojoed the mojo. I remember it well, but hopefully we'll get to see some of those exciting matchups in the 7-on-7 season coming up.
Well, and one last thing, we won't get too much into down memory lane here, but in 2003 or 4, we met Odessa Permian in the state semifinals, the Final Four down in College Station, and Odessa Permian beat us by a touchdown or so. They had a really good team that year. And some guy by the name of Billy Skinner was and Mike Williamson Jr. was on the roster of that Lamar Viking team.
Well, I'll have to ask Go Skinner about that on Monday when we do a Lamar Viking football coach show. Soon,
ask him too if there's a better backseat John Madden player than him in the history of Lamar. Just
I'll have to bring that up
because he wears that mantle proudly.
That's awesome. Well, that's good to know. Anything else you want to add, Jim?
No, sir, except thank you for your support, and we look forward to getting this season off and running.
Well, Jim, I thank you very much for taking time to visit today and let everyone know more about the 7-on-7 program and how important it is. And, maybe after the first or second tournament, let's do another one of these, let people know how the season's going and continue how they can support and everything. Sound good?
Love it, Bill.
Okay. Well, until then, I'm Bill Frawley with Jim Poynter saying VFND.